Steven Universe was a hit cartoon broadcasted on Cartoon Network in the United States of America from the mid-2010s and into the early 2020s. The show was groundbreaking with many of the topics discussed, as well as the in-depth and complex screenwriting displayed in the episodes of the seasons. However, there are many fan theories and speculation about the show, from the characters portrayed, storylines depicted, and settings displayed, all of which will be discussed and commented on. The first season of Steven Universe held details and facts that were later changed or ignored as the seasons progressed and developed. One of these said facts is that for a demonstration, Pearl uses and manipulates sound, possibly with her mind. This feature is never mentioned again or witnessed again in the entire series, and it's a possibly lost or unexplained ability of Pearl's in the Steven Universe universe. An interesting fact about sound with relation to pearls is that natural pearls are made when a small parasitic organism finds its way into a clam or oyster, and it's a method in which the sea creature attempts to remove it. The pearl is not actually made by a grain of sand necessarily discussed, mentioned, or thought of for centuries. It's assumed that the pearl's connection with sand is a reason why Pearl had this particular ability in the series, but besides the single mention and depiction of it, an ability of this could have possibly been expounded upon but was later abandoned. When Ruby and Sapphire first fused, this astonished all who had witnessed it. Later, upon escaping, this new fusion was discovered upon by Rose Quartz and Pearl. The fusions of gems with the combination resulting of it are astronomically, possibly infinite. So, the particular pairing of Ruby and Sapphire is so different, it's considered a new fusion having never been seen or witnessed before. Both mentioned to this particular new fusion taking the name of Garnet. The fusion of Garnet is so new that even the Diamonds had never witnessed something like this before. Upon hearing the name of Garnet, the Diamonds mentioned, quote unquote, "Is that what you call yourself?" As it's likely a real garnet is some other sort of gem not seen but known in the series. In early episodes, when Steven first begins to learn about the details relating to Rose Quartz, Amethyst and Greg have an interesting conversation in which Steven begins to learn about her with the VHS tape she left for him inside Lion's Mane. Greg clearly devotes himself entirely to Rose's memory, and Amethyst teases him by even shapeshifting into Rose during their conversation. It's heavily implied that Amethyst actually had some sort of feelings for Greg. Even Vidalia mentions that when Greg was younger, he was one of the more attractive men in Beach City, to an embarrassed yet agreeing Amethyst. But the idea was eventually abandoned in pursuit of other ideas for the series. It's also known that before Steven was born, Amethyst spent most of her time with Greg, so much so that Rose Quartz is the only other character to have spent more time with Greg besides Amethyst. Throughout the entire series with relation to Pearl, it's mentioned countless times that she's devastated beyond imagination at the loss of Pink Diamond and her alter ego of Rose Quartz. In one of the final episodes of Season 5, Steven has to go into Pearl's mind to retrieve a cellular phone with important information on it. And in one of the levels of Pearl's subconscious mind, an entire layer of consciousness is her grieving over the loss of Rose Quartz. It's interesting that towards the end of the series, this subconsciousness is still within her mind, as multiple times, mentioned in multiple episodes, in multiple seasons, have had Pearl apologizing to Greg and Steven. Greg for quote-unquote stealing away Rose from her, and Steven quote-unquote killing her. The best example of this was the tension over Rose's loss was so much so that Pearl stopped talking to Greg, and Steven decided to lessen the tension between the three of them by a trip to Empire City for an emotional confrontation of one another over their feelings of Rose. Everything seemed to be resolved and accepted by the end of the episode, but apparently not so, as deep within Pearl's subconscious mind, there will always be irrefutable resentment, anger, and hate towards Greg and Steven for the loss of Pink Diamond/Rose Quartz. In the episode Bismuth, Steven discovers the weapon maker of the crystal gems, and the gem that single-handedly made weapons for all of the gems that fought alongside Rose Quartz during the rebellion. Bismuth explained that this was a super-secret prototype weapon capable of shattering any gem instantly upon impact. Theoretically, even a diamond isn't immune to the weapon. Bismuth also showed Steven extraordinarily dangerous, unused weapons that could have also possibly turned the direction of the war in their favor. Bismuth later explained that she just didn't want to free Earth from the diamonds, that they should bring the war of rebellion across every diamond colony in the galaxy, and even eventually to Homeworld itself. Such a loss of life would have been unimaginable if the breaking point were to have ever been mass-produced, aside from the prototype that Bismuth had created. Before the final confrontation against the armies of Homeworld, Bismuth revealed the existence of the breaking point to Rose. However, Rose was against taking life, for that was the reason why the rebellion was declared in the first place, for freedom, peace, and understanding. All she wanted to do was to free Earth from the Empire's control. Nothing more, nothing less. But Bismuth argued that eventually the cause and continued aspect of fighting would change the reasons for the rebellion. Rose later used the Crystal Sword, a weapon that Bismuth made for Rose, against her, to instantly regress her into gem form and lock her away, later hiding the more violent weapons in the breaking point. Steven later destroys the breaking point and doesn't ever mention it to anyone else, even though Bismuth could have easily recreated it. When Bismuth is later released by Steven for Ruby and Sapphire's wedding, she later discovers all of the bubbled gems sealed away through the thousands of years of hunting by the surviving gems being Rose, Pearl, and Garnet. Bismuth later mentions to herself that she was right all along, and Rose later acted in a similar way to how Bismuth predicted the course of the war would go in terms of events and reasons for the rebellion, and would eventually evolve into. In the episode Greg the Babysitter, Rose Quartz first encounters how Greg would react and raise an infant child, being sour cream. Even though Rose must have seen countless infants during her time on Earth, with Greg, it's a clearly different experience in terms of Rose's reactions. Rose later uses the idea of the baby sour cream for when she turns herself into a child. Mentioned in the episode, Pearl is emphatic about Rose shifting back into her regular persona and doesn't care much at all for Steven. Only in the final episodes of the series, it's actually hinted at that Steven himself is just another persona of Pink Diamond. While on Homeworld during the final episodes of Season 5, Steven is put under extraordinarily difficult, complex, and painful mental stress, more so than anything he's ever felt in his young life up until that time, and as a result, extremely visible hints are given, and irrefutable clues that Steven himself is nothing more than a new persona created by Pink Diamond and an evolution of Rose Quartz. It confirms theories discussed by Pearl and Garnet shortly after Steven is born that it's biologically impossible for a gem and human to have a child due to the physiological and evolutionary differences between the different species. When White Diamond actually removes Pink Diamond's gem from Steven's stomach, it confirms the fact that Pink Diamond is still alive in some way, but completely under the illusion of self-imposed regression being in the form of Steven Universe. When Steven overheard Pink Diamond and Pearl coming up with the illusion of her being shattered, it was from that moment on that Rose Quartz would become her dominant persona, and she would never ever revert back or change into the physical appearance or attitudes and acting of Pink Diamond. It was this mental attitude that later shifted to Rose desiring to become Steven Universe, a full human, using Greg as a blueprint and the infant sour cream as a starting point. However, due to the diamond's vast power, Blue, Yellow, and White all saw through the disguise of Steven instantly and never referred to Steven Universe as a person but only as Pink Diamond. Eventually, when they learned of the situation of Steven, did they finally call him Steven, but still plainly knew and acted like Pink Diamond was still there. Yellow even mentioned to Blue in a conversation that, quote-unquote, it's her choice, as a clear reference to the fact that Pink is still there, but deep, hidden, buried under Steven Universe's unconsciousness, as that's the life she desires to live now. It's not to say that Steven himself doesn't exist, as when White Diamond removed Pink's diamond from his stomach, he did not disappear from existence. Connie was able to see and hold him, as it's irrefutable that an aspect of Pink Diamond's power was put into giving a theoretical son of her and Greg physical form. But Pink Diamond herself later became an aura or shadow of Steven, being there for his every move and developing with him as a persona of him. But Pink could only be tapped into by Steven during deep sleep, as seen with the situation involving the cluster, or of extraordinary stress as witnessed during the final episodes of Season 5. Sapphire was greatly treasured in Blue Diamond's Imperial Court for her ability to see into the future. Though not unique among Sapphires, it put a great amount of stress onto each Sapphire mentally, to know and be burdened with the considerable knowledge of outcomes for everything conceivably done on a daily basis. After literally falling in love at first sight with Ruby, the pair fused. This new fusion became a self-imposed Garnet, also inherited the same ability of the future vision, but as mentioned to Steven a number of times, Ruby's blunt, carefree attitude towards things meant that the vision could be somewhat ignored. However, Garnet later revealed more details of the future vision while working at the Big Donut, that due to the complexity of the future vision there are alternate timelines so impossible to come across that the sheer predictability of arriving at these said timelines is so astronomically rare that it's impossible, and even she can't predict what could or would happen next. So it's technically impossible to use the full magnitude or cognition of her future vision. She only narrows the composition of it to predicting basic things, as this was her original purpose in Blue Diamond's court. It's theoretically possible that the power of predicting the future and even viewing alternate timelines subconsciously, as when she mentioned that Sour Cream was actually abducted by the gems in an alternate timeline, for example, and this concept of power viewing alternate timelines, choosing which alternate timeline to go across, is even more great than the power of the diamonds. In later seasons and episodes of Steven Universe, it's revealed that by the command of White Diamond, Yellow Diamond and Blue Diamond ought to make colonies for the Empire that which she theoretically rules. Worlds are scouted for and eventually used and developed for resources, but Pink Diamond doesn't have any said colonies. During one of Steven's repressed dreams, he imagines Connie's mother as Yellow Diamond in the episode Jungle Moon. Pink humorously tries to get Yellow Priyanka's attention but isn't taken seriously. Yellow Priyanka then shouts at her to act more mature. As Pink, Steven, Connie, Stefani later becomes a bit more serious and angry as a result. This example of herself being more serious impresses Yellow Diamond eventually, to give her the first and only colony of Pink Diamond, Earth. Despite the fact that Yellow scouted it out, she later gave it to Pink, but later regrets everything related to Earth, often mentioning through repressed memories that Earth started all of the problems for the diamonds, such as being the cause of the rebellion. Expounding further along the theory of the relationship with pink to the other diamonds, it's hinted that pink was actually closer to yellow diamond, as through flashbacks it's represented and depicted of pink often visiting yellow in her control room while yellow worked on the various colonies' progress for the empire. Through the grief of Blue Diamond, it's hinted at, even though Blue Diamond was always depicted grieving towards what happened to Pink Diamond, Yellow Diamond was theoretically closer to Pink. Expanding even further than this as to why Blue Diamond grieves and is so heartbroken over the loss of Pink is that she was the one that came across Pink Diamond and Pearl's plot to fake her shattering. A number of other gems are later mentioned to have come onto the scene, including the eyeball ruby that later mentioned to Steven that she saw the actual shattering. Blue's grief comes from the fact that she saw her own quote-unquote sister's death, and the fact that she annually returns to the location where Pink's palanquin lay in ruins religiously to reflect on the passing. It's also mentioned by Yellow that Blue was heavily ridiculed by White Diamond and even other regular gems for not capturing rose quartz after the supposed shattering of Pink, and Yellow defending her from social ostracization for centuries after the shattering. It's mentioned that through the thousands of years before and right up to the rebellion, that Pink Diamond just did a number of odd things for White, Yellow, and Blue Diamond. After Yellow Diamond allowed Pink to have Earth as her first colony, she observed Earth and noticed the diverse sets of life growing upon it. Though it took place in prehistory, the raw natural beauty of Earth as a planet inspired her to faithfully take on the persona of Rose Quartz to protect the Earth and challenge the Empire. But shortly after the Earth colony is established, it's mentioned that Pink Diamond is quite impatient for the development of Earth, and that it could take centuries or even thousands of years for a colony to become fully operational in terms of extracting resources and to produce gems through kindergartens. Pink later decides, upon her rose quartz persona and all the beauty that she witnessed, that she does not want the colony. But Yellow and Blue object to this and pressure her to continue developing it. Pink Diamond pleads about the native human life as well as the animal life developing and evolving on the world, and the other diamonds say to just exterminate it, hinting that they've done so on countless other worlds when the situation arises. However, Pink's pleading eventually gains the attention of the other diamonds, and through guilt or just trying to please Pink, they actually use their resources to remove a group of prehistoric humans to an outer space outpost that Pink is also given jurisdiction over. This is the zoo. When Steven ventures to save Greg because of him being trapped on the zoo being taken by Blue, it's mentioned by other gems that on the zoo, even though it's a Yellow Diamond controlled outpost, it originally belonged to Pink Diamond, which confirms that the diamonds had proposed it as a solution to saving human life on Earth while keeping it as a colony for resources. It's also mentioned that there were a few other outposts formerly under Pink Diamond's control, so it's quite possible that there were other zoos in the galaxy. After the rebellion and the diamonds' combined blast that shatters nearly all of the crystal gems on Earth, Rose and Pearl wander the Earth for thousands of years while Garnet eventually joins the group and they all travel together. Even later on, Lion joins the team, as the group are later mentioned throughout various legends all over the world and depicted in various ways as human civilization globally develops. When Pink Diamond was supposedly shattered, it caused an unprecedented panic throughout the Empire. No one had ever thought that a diamond could be shattered, even by a rebel leader with abilities, powers, and charisma such as Rose Quartz. It was mentioned many times, specifically by Pearl, Garnet, Lapis, Peridot, and even Jasper, that the diamonds were the most powerful life forms in the galaxy, so it was next to impossible to shatter one. But the lie orchestrated by Pink and Pearl was done so beautifully and precisely that no one questioned it, especially after Blue Diamond and Eyeball came upon Pink's destroyed palincade. Through stories in the 5th season of Steven Universe, Yellow and Blue were under great stress, and they attacked one another due to fear or pressure by White Diamond indirectly. Yellow blasted Blue with an extraordinarily powerful beam of electric yellow energy, and it seemed like Yellow would have caused Blue to regress back into her diamond form if it were not for Steven, as she later relented. This depiction of Blue Diamond in pain by Yellow Diamond is as close as we all saw to a diamond being forced out of physical form. In the diamond hierarchy, it's never specifically mentioned that there are different levels of power through the gems, or if one is more powerful or weaker than one another. Their full abilities are never specifically mentioned aside from Blue Diamond's ability to spread unbearable sorrow to any gem in her immediate vicinity. Through sheer fear from Yellow and Blue, White seems to be the most powerful diamond, and by her own accounts, her ability seems to be the most infinite, with her claims of being the most pure color. In real life, throughout world history, the color of white is considered to be the most pure and elegant of all the colors, as it's uncorruptible, as mentioned by White Diamond. All colors pass through her, and it's how she's able to control Yellow and Blue telepathically. White light, when reflected through a prism, can exhibit all the other colors of the spectrum. But in a little bit of irony, within most Asian cultures, white is the color of mourning. In terms of authority of gems, Blue is actually obeyed more loyally than with Yellow. Blue gems of all classes and status or even ability often have praise of her, and not like Yellow Diamond, whom openly fear her wrath, with the prime example being Peridot when she was first introduced with Jasper, as Sapphire's appreciation for Blue Diamond when she was first separated from Ruby. It could also be mentioned that blue is one of the primary colors, and that all colors aside from white could go through blue. Historically, blue was used in various art depictions and decorations, as well as through language and literature internationally. In terms of color, blue was among the first to be used and processed artificially through modern clothing making methods. But in another sense of irony, blue was historically the color of military uniforms and of police enforcement, unlike yellow. Yellow is a secondary color, which is associated with gentleness but also happiness and wisdom. At the same time, yellow is viewed as being of a duplistic nature and of jealousy. When Steven spoke about confronting White Diamond, it's Yellow who had spoke first against White, and Yellow was the diamond that first allowed Pink to gain her first and only colony, which was Earth. In Chinese culture, yellow is symbolic of authority and power. In the Steven Universe, Yellow Diamond is mentioned as having the most colonies out of all the diamonds, and often the most obsessed with results and conquests relating to these colonies, as Peridot clearly mentioned this a number of times when she was first introduced in the series. Though Yellow had everything, Pink actually chose Yellow as the diamond she looked up to the most and respected arguably. It's said that Pink is actually a shade of red, and that the title of Pink being used specifically to describe it as a color separate from red is relatively recent, dating back to the 17th century. According to popular European and American public opinion, pink is often associated with charm, sensitivity, sweetness, and kindness. Originally, pink diamonds served as an intermediary between and for the other diamonds. Similar to the color, the other diamonds had conquests and experience throughout the galaxy on an interplanetary level for eons, but the relatively inexperienced Pink was later allowed to have her own colony, which was not a lot of time. Much like the difference between pink and red as separate colors, Pink later used kindness and compassion to bring other gems to fight for her cause as Rose Quartz in the Rebellion. Interestingly enough, with relation to Rebellion, pink is often seen and identified as a color to express social issues related to women in the 21st century. And a final bit of irony, a combination of pink and white is associated with innocence, as when Steven Universe / Pink Diamond used her essence against White Diamond, it caused her to stop her attack against Yellow Diamond, Blue Diamond, the Crystal Gems, and Connie. A popular early theory of the series is that Lars Beringa is actually a full-blooded or of mixed descent Filipino heritage, because in the episode The Good Lars, he actually through the episode's story makes an ube cake roll. When Steven asks him what is it, Lars mentions that it's a dessert that he used to eat all the time as a child. The ube connection to Lars' heritage is mentioned a few more times in the series, as many have considered it to mean that he's Filipino. Other theories explain that Lars' original skin color and hair texture might have been similar to that of a Southeast Asian heritage, but this theory has never been confirmed. Lars fought and disabled a gem drone in the episode Off Colors, but later died from injuries sustained when the drone exploded. Shocked at the death of his close friend, Steven cries and a tear goes onto Lars' skin. Using the power of Pink Diamond, Lars is revived and has the same appearance and hairstyle as Lion. Lars himself later mentioned that he died and Steven revived him. And Steven himself finally understands why Lion has this particular appearance. Connecting the theory further, it stipulates that after Rose, Pearl, and Garnet proved victorious in the rebellion as mentioned, they wandered the Earth, and through their trials and adventures came across Lion. It's theorized that Lion might have died in similar circumstances, as Rose would naturally grieve over his death and revived him as well. Lars is depicted as no longer needing to eat or sleep like a gem, and possibly as an unforeseen consequence of Steven's actions, he might live for thousands of years. When Steven first fuses with Connie in the episode Alone Together, it astonishes Greg when he later learns of it. He then tells Steven and Connie that he tried to fuse with Rose, but this never succeeded. Pearl also commented that it might be due to their personalities, and the fact that Rose Quartz is a persona of Pink Diamond, and Mr. Universe, Greg Universe, is a persona of Gregory DeMaio. When Steven and Connie fuse, they become Stefani. Because they aren't hiding anything from one another, they're completely honest. When Steven first asks Garnet and Pearl on how gems fuse, they mention to him that there needs to be a level of trust and honesty between the gems that fuse. Even though Connie is a human, Pink Diamond's transformation into Steven Universe means that he can fuse with humans. Greg later realizes that there was never a true aspect of trust between him and Rose. She kept the fact of her being Pink Diamond from even him, and only Pearl knew of this fact. Greg later accepts the realization of his quote-unquote wife's past and moves on with his life. In the episode Gem Harvest, Greg's cousin Andy DeMaio comes back to the family farm and explains to Steven that Greg's real name is Gregory DeMaio. Steven is shocked that his family's name isn't Universe but DeMaio. The other gems later mock Greg for this, but he shrugs it off, saying that he's who he wants to be, similar to how Pink Diamond desired and pretended to be Rose Quartz. Steven also asked Greg where he came from, and Greg mentioned that he came from the city. When Steven, Greg, and Pearl went to Empire City, Greg comments that he's very familiar with an urban setting like it. The spelling of DeMaio can be viewed as an Anglo-Americanization of DeMeo, a family name found in Sicily and southern Italy. Another interesting fact is that when the episode is watched with subtitles, whenever Andy speaks, it says, quote-unquote, in a New York accent, so it gives hints and suggestions that Greg and Andy were born in New York City. When Rose Quartz first sets foot on Earth, she instantly fell in love with the Earth, its people, animals, and all of the limitless potential that it had. It's also hinted at that Rose had numerous romantic interests and partners throughout the thousands of years of her self-imposed exile on the planet, as mentioned by Pearl and Garnet. Pearl later mentioned that even she couldn't understand how Rose fell in love with Greg, and Garnet mentioned to Pearl that he's the first and only true love of her life in passing, and that you don't necessarily need to understand such things. Just accept it. In the episode Off Color, the others escape the diamonds on Homeworld and go deep underground to abandoned regions of the planet. The background seems strikingly similar to a kindergarten. An online theory states that Homeworld is just another colony, perhaps the oldest one of the diamonds, and that they originate as a species from somewhere else in the cosmos. It's never mentioned where the diamonds and gems come from, just that their main world is Homeworld. The theory goes even further that Homeworld is a colony of White Diamond, or her only colony, which shows her absolute status there on the planet and within the Empire, that White Diamond rules the Diamond Empire from her single colony of Homeworld. When Peridot and Jasper first come to Earth, Jasper mentions that Earth is a disgraced colony due to the successful rebellion led by Rose Quartz. Jasper, who was actually formed on Earth, heavily despises her home planet and doesn't want anything to do with it. Through comments made by the pair, it's discovered that after the rebellion, and perhaps due to Blue Diamond's mourning and Yellow Diamond's guilt, Earth is quarantined, and no gem can ever visit the planet aside from the diamonds. Peridot mentioned that it's a serious crime to venture to Earth, and none do so unless they invoke the full wrath of Yellow and Blue Diamond. It's also ironic due to the fact mentioned by Rose, Pearl, Peridot, and Jasper, and Amethyst, that minerals and the environment on Earth are perfect for forming superior gems, theoretically. The idea or concept of gem fusions is highly complex, as there are a lot of attributes that go into the practice and implementation of fusing gems. Stable fusions. Perfectly stable fusions of gems occur when willing gems combine into a completely new form. Both original gems have full consciousness during the fusion and often have full measure of original abilities plus new powers from the combined gems. Stable fusions can also separate with no problems at all, such as when Rose Quartz and Pearl fuse to form Rainbow Quartz 1.0 in the episode We Need to Talk, where when done, both smoothly and effortlessly split apart once the fusion is completed. Unstable fusions. Dangerously unstable fusions of gems will occur when unwilling or doubtful gems combine into a new form. Both original gems have full consciousness during the fusion, but are often violent towards the new fusion and speak of the two original gems in a third-person point of view, as if they are there and not there at the same time. Though both might exist, sometimes a dominant personality of the original gems can have more influence or actions of the combined form. Powers and abilities of the original gems are that, similar to a composed fusion exists with new abilities, but due to the mental conflict, can be a great danger to the fused gem or others in the vicinity. The prime example of an unstable fusion is that of Lapis and Jasper. Malachite, extremely rare fusions. With the multitude of gems, presumably there is the theory of rare gems fusing with one another. Garnet is the prime example of a fusion so rare it's never been seen before, as abilities and attributes are new and completely unexpected. Artificial fusions. The only real example of artificial fusions on an industrial sort of scale is the cluster, diamond gem fusions. Diamonds could fuse with gems, but due to the social stigma, it's not normally done. All of the gems speak of fusion and know about it, but don't do it due to their standing in the Empire. However, it is possible. As Pink Diamond, Rose Quartz did it with Pearl to form Rainbow Quartz 1.0. And Steven, by extension, as Pink Diamond has fused with other gems many times. Gem-human fusions. By definition, fusion is not possible due to the biological and evolutionary differences. But when Pink Diamond, through Rose Quartz, transformed into Steven Universe, a bridge or connection was created. It's presumed that a gem-human fusion is weaker than a normal gem-gem fusion due to the traits of the human being inherited to the new gem fusion combination. Garnet and Peridot's fusion. When Peridot seeks to get to know Garnet better, Garnet calmly and carelessly proposed a fusion between the pair, but Peridot originally is extremely shocked at the possibility. Eventually, the pair do fuse, but this is the only fusion that's technically mentioned but never depicted in the series. Peridot later described the fusion in her audio diary of being no real consequence, so it's theorized that it's a weak fusion. Throughout this series, stories and adventures take place in Beach City. Mayor Dewey actually make references to the quote-unquote state of Delmarva. Some fans had it that Delmarva is a fictional American state somewhere possibly in the western region of the United States of America. In the episode Empire City, Greg mentions to Pearl and Steven that they're heading east to Empire City. And with the city of Beach City on the coast, it's theorized that it's somewhere on the west coast with a climate similar to California. Delmarva is actually a peninsula in the northeastern region of the United States. Besides Delmarva, it's also hinted that this Earth is drastically different from our own. A few times in this series, maps have been shown portraying and displaying the geography, topography, and continental locations across the planet, and it's quite different from ours. It's interesting in the fact, since on Earth in prehistoric times, which the planet was under the Diamond Empire's control and influence. And this fact has been mentioned throughout history leading into modern times, with Rose, Pearl, and Garnet, and even Lion influencing world events either discreetly, on purpose, or even by accident. According to Buddy's accounts, Rose influenced the founding of Beach City, so it's easy to imagine that due to Rose Quartz's rebellion in ancient times, that gem warfare and fighting on a planetary-wide scale could affect the environment, or even topography of the planet. Upon maps shown from former pink diamond resource extraction facilities, the details can actually be quite graphic, such as, in Europe there is no Iceland or Svalbard. Asia has a gigantic sea in Siberia, as it clearly looks like an asteroid hit the region, or even possibly a gem weapon destroyed that part of the continent. The Japanese islands are directly connected to the Asian continent. Southern China and southern India's coasts are vastly different. Western Africa is actually detached, and most of it is part of Brazil, while smaller island pieces drift near South Africa, as well as the Falkland Islands are missing. North America has the entire southeastern coast missing, with the state of Florida actually depicted as an island. In Oceania, all of the South Pacific islands seem to be missing. Western Australia is partially detached from the Australian continent, and New Zealand seems to be shown as an archipelago. Due to the extraordinary differences as mentioned, the impossible predictions to show with alternate history or even explain with diamond intergalactic influence and interference on Earth, few messages or depictions are given to us as to world events discussed in the Steven Universe. It's most likely vague on purpose because of these facts. The Mystery Girl and Pearl. In the episode Lost One Out of Beach City, Pearl actually becomes somewhat infatuated with a mysterious girl shown in the episode. As mentioned by Steven, she bears an uncanny resemblance to Rose Quartz. The concept of the character were very vague, but left viewers wanting more, as all sorts of theories came up for this episode, as the girl being a reincarnation of Rose or just a bizarre coincidence. All of the theories were never confirmed, as in the original Steven Universe series, nothing more came up of the nameless mystery girl, as the only other time she was seen was in the episode The Big Show, being depicted in the crowd while Sadie Killer and the suspects played a Bond performance. Rose's Secret Armory. In the episode Lion 2 the movie, Steven discovers a secret armory of roses that no one else knew about. Even Pearl had questions about the room and what it was used for. A theory states that after Rose's confrontation with Bismuth and the breaking point, she actually somewhat changed her views about humans and the potential that they had possibly. What's odd is that this entire area was built without the knowledge of the other gems. And because of this fact that she's gone, There's a purpose to the armory that's now forgotten. Interestingly enough, gems don't wear human armor into battles, and the armory is full of suits of armor, chainmail, leather, or even cloth from different human cultures across the planet. In the later season's episode, The Return, Greg mentions to Steven that both Gem and humans fought alongside one another for Rose during the rebellion, when it was originally just Gems that fought with Rose against Homeworld, so the empty suits of armor and weapons in the hidden armory could possibly be reminders to Rose of men, and even women, who died fighting during the rebellion. Lars and Ronaldo's friendship. In the episode Horror Club, Lars and Ronaldo, through the course of the events mentioned in the episode, to be childhood friends and formerly best friends. What some have commented on is that this friendship is barely mentioned at all for the rest of the series, as even examples of the two bumping into one another in future episodes of the series from the point of the episode, showing little more in terms of reactions to one another than a basic knowledge of each other. Apparently, the plot idea of the pair being friends might have been abandoned in favor of the close relationship that later develops between Steven and Lars during the final seasons and episodes of the series. Popular fan speculation online had it that in early episodes and seasons of the series, Rebecca Sugar, whom was one of the main influences and creator of the show, had full creative control of the series. But as Steven Universe's popularity on Cartoon Network and related media increased, her presence in the cartoon's leadership diminished. This is actually fucked, as though she retained a senior leadership creative position, full creative control did lapse from her control. Even comments from other screenwriters and staff officials connected with the show, combined with speculation, confirmed all this. Ever since Steven Universe was first announced and later broadcasted, the subject content of the cartoon, as well as the themes of acceptance and tolerance, and everything else depicted within the cartoon's episodes of seasons, were heavily mentioned throughout the series. Though the cartoon was just promoted as such, a cartoon, some of the references are clearly visible and undeniable. To keep a focus of official neutrality, often public comments of the cartoon were with titles of acceptance and tolerance to not offend anyone of either side, supporting such rights or against such rights. The year of 2015, there was an episode of the series that crossed over with another Cartoon Network produced series of the time, Uncle Grandpa. While the episode is the only one in the entire original series to not be official or canonical, and not connected to any of the other episodes or the Steven Universe timeline, there are reasons for why such an episode was created. At the time, critics even wondered why such a crossover between the two cartoons was ever conceived of. There were no good reasons for the two shows to have ever been connected. Other critics said that a better concept for a crossover would have been with a more popular show broadcasted at the time, being possibly, for example, the critically acclaimed Adventure Time. According to official sources, Steven Universe creator Rebecca Sugar actually came up with the original pitch for the crossover episode. Other reasons had it for the episode's creation is that when Uncle Grandpa first premiered, the show faced heavy criticism for its various aspects of the cartoon as well as its themes and related concepts. People connected to the show faced heavy online criticism for it, and the episode was made in part to counter the online hate for it with positive reception, positive connection to a fan favorite Steven Universe cartoon. With the conclusion of Season 5's episodes first being broadcasted in early 2019, plans were to follow up with the movie broadcasted in late 2019. Taking place a few years after the chronological end of Season 5, the film had positive reviews, but there were some negative aspects and reception for it with relation to the prior season's established continuity. The movie felt somewhat forced together in terms of pacing the story for its central plot. Apparently, in the feature, Steven decided to dismantle the Diamond Empire, which took eons to construct, and now gems live in quote-unquote peace throughout the cosmos. And some gems are even residing on Earth near Beach City in a settlement in reference to Rose Quartz's vision for gems and humans living together on Earth. Spinal's main focus in the animated feature was a sort of comedy relief for Pink Diamond, when in the original seasons of the series, Pink Diamond herself was a sort of humorous factor for the other diamonds. So Spinel being a quote-unquote assistant or even companion to Pink seems somewhat odd and out of place. The idea of her being alone on a private garden from Pink for a period of thousands of years also seems a bit odd, in the fact that the other diamonds did not venture to Pink's garden at all. When Pink Diamond was supposedly shattered, Blue Diamond visited the location annually, religiously, faithfully, obsessively for thousands of years. This negligence seems to be a huge inconsistency in the film with relation to the diamond's personality traits as established in prior seasons. But it partially relates to what a spinel is. Spinel is a metamorphic mineral. Essentially, some cases of spinels are transformations of existing rock minerals. So with relation to the animated film, Spinel later turns into a somewhat villain from an innocent playmate because of Pink Diamond's negligence towards their quote-unquote friendship. So the change from innocent to malevolent makes perfect logical sense. One interesting aspect of the feature is that when Spinel first came to Earth, she brought an injector, which actually resembles flashbacks of diamonds with plans to start a kindergarten on a potential colony world. In the original seasons, they were never technically given a name, so with multiple injectors at a potential site, it can be, in theory, terraformed into a kindergarten for gem production for the Diamond Empire. During the first confrontation, Spinel attacks Steven, Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst with a scythe that Bismuth later calls a rejuvenator upon inspecting it. Bismuth's comments refer to such weapons being used in pre-rebellion days of the Gem Empire, with disobedient gems to have their personalities reset to a factory defaulted state, or as Paradox says in the feature, to quote-unquote reset character development. Due to Bismuth and Paradox's reaction to Spinel's rejuvenator and injector, these seem to be on-take pieces of technology made from the pre-rebellion era of the Empire as mentioned. This assumption does make perfect logical sense, because Pink Diamond told Spinel to wait for her in the garden with the false hope of her returning. Pink later became occupied with the Earth colony, and later on the rebellion, so thousands of years naturally passed, as it would be easy to imagine Spinel having access to pre-rebellion gem-era technology. The motives for Spinel's anger against Pink Diamond and later Steven and the other gems feel completely justified to viewers of the feature, as even Steven could later and would later agree with her motives for why she was angry and wanted to hurt everyone. Interesting aspects of the feature even further have the concept of memories or experiences of gems overriding the factory reset feature of the rejuvenator if strong enough, as it relates to comments made by Pearl and Garnet during the series with personal experiences relating to what a gem might endure or experience during their lifetime. Even Steven and Greg fusing to form Steg, as Greg himself finally experienced what it's like to undergo a gem fusion. There were inconsistencies in the film, such as when Steven mentions to Pearl as to who Spinel is in relationship to Pink Diamond, and Pearl says that she hasn't seen Spinel in 6,000 years. This is an error because in this series, the Diamond Rebellion is mentioned numerous times to have taken place roughly 5,000 years before the chronological series of Steven Universe. Garnet has mentioned multiple times that she, being Ruby and Sapphire, have been on Earth for roughly 7,200 years along with Pearl and Rose Quartz. Pearl mentioned that she had been in the service of Pink Diamond for a quote-unquote few thousand years before she was given the colony of Earth by Yellow Diamond. Screenwriting from Pearl's comments in the movie contradict from the seasons of the series, as might just be an accident or aspect of lazy screenwriting by production staff to not necessarily look or check back into pre-established facts of the series.